Okay, welcome all the participants, both internal and external participants. I'm extremely happy and honored to introduce today's speaker of the webinar series. Dr. Helen Shanti, ma'am, holds 30 years of teaching experience. She had graduated BE Civil Engineering from GCT, Coimbatore, Bharatiyar University 1987. She holds 2 MS degree, MS in Technological Operation from Birla Institute of Science and Technology, BITS Pilani 1992. MS by research in the behavior of lap jointed connections in cold form steel sections in 1999 from Anna University. She had completed her PhD in Anna University in 2005 with a dissertation titled Evaluation of Seismic Performance of RCC Frames. She had published numerous peer-reviewed national and international journals. She had also presented 25 plus national and international conferences. To brief about her achievements and awards, she was awarded as a best teacher in 2003 and 2008, a keynote speaker, reviewer in International Journal of Construction and Building Materials elsewhere. She holds life member of Indian Society for Technical Education, life member in Indian Concrete Institute, member in ASCE, American Society for Civil Engineers. She had guided 2 PhD and guiding 2 PhD scholars, 6 PhD scholars. She holds a patent on automated system for recording a circumferential pressure of concrete formwork. She had also taken up roles including HOD of Civil Engineering in Satyabama University, as a principal in Indira Gandhi College of Engineering and Technology, Chengalpet, as a program chair and dean academic research in VIT Chennai. She is also a member in academic council in VIT Chennai. With no further delay, let me hand over the session to Dr. Helen Shanti, ma'am.
Thank you, Dr. Arun, for the introduction.
Thank you, ma'am.
Good evening, everyone. In this session, I am going to share the seismic analysis of bridges. This is the outline of my presentation. The first one, need for seismic analysis of bridges, and then what are the various seismic analysis methods are available. Among them, I am going to focus on non-linear analysis of bridges and then conclusion. Okay, let us see whether the seismic analysis of bridges is required or not. When we look at the past history of bridges, they were constructed based on their functional requirement. They should facilitate the transportation of men and material from one place to another place. Their performance during extreme loading like earthquakes are almost neglected. In fact, there were no code books to take care of seismic forces acting on the bridges, and also the building codes were used for the design of bridges too in the past. After experiencing significant damages due to earthquakes all over the world, engineers and designers felt that there should be some proper guidelines to safeguard the bridges. India also witnessed medium to high magnitude earthquakes in the recent past, like Burma, India, the magnitude is around 6.8, then Uttarkashi 6.6, Hillary earthquake 6.4, then Jabalpur earthquake 6, and recently in 2001 Gujarat earthquake 7.7. And during these earthquake events, the performance of the bridges are not satisfactory. After the lessons learned from the past earthquakes, we have come up with the seismic code IS 1893 Part 3 for the bridges. As civil and structural engineers, we should ask ourselves whether we are prepared to face any medium to high magnitude earthquake in the future. If we say yes, how we are going to protect our existing bridges as well as upcoming bridges. For new bridges, we may say we will follow the guidelines for the design given in the code book. But the code gives only the general requirements, but the performance of different types of bridges vary from each other. They are unique. Therefore, it is necessary to evaluate the seismic behavior of existing and new bridges using various analysis methods. Now we will see what are the various seismic analysis methods are available. They are categorized into 2 groups, elastic method and inelastic method. Under this elastic methods, we have a linear static analysis and the linear dynamic analysis. The elastic methods are based on force. That means strength is the main criteria in the case of elastic methods. And also we assume that the structure is within the elastic limit. But in reality, during earthquakes, the structural components are deformed beyond its elastic limit. So the results from these elastic methods are not reliable. Maybe for the initial analysis or design, we can have these elastic methods. If you want to get the realistic responses, then we have to move to the inelastic methods. Under these inelastic methods, we have nonlinear static analysis and nonlinear dynamic analysis. Here, both the methods are based on the displacement. That means they allow the structures to deform, or components of the structures are permitted to deform beyond its elastic limit. So the results or responses from inelastic methods are reliable and very useful for the design of the very special structures like bridges. The code IS 1893 Part 3 recommends 4 methods of analysis for the calculation of seismic forces. The first one is seismic coefficient method, response spectrum method, time history method, and the pushover analysis. Here, the first 2 methods are the elastic methods, then time history method and pushover analysis are the inelastic methods. We'll see one by one, and we have to know whether we have to carry out all these 4 analyses for all the types of bridges. No. Again, the code specifies the method of seismic analysis of bridges for different types. Okay, here in this table, we are saying the earthquake level. This is design-based earthquake level. The category of bridge: regular, special regular, and special irregular. For the regular structures, only the seismic coefficient method is sufficient. For special regular, we have to carry out response spectrum method and time history method. And if it is a special irregular method, irregular bridge, then we have to conduct all these 3 methods: response spectrum method, time history method, and nonlinear pushover analysis. When we consider the MCE, that is nothing but maximum considered earthquake level, all the category of bridges should be analyzed using the nonlinear and time history method. The seismic coefficient method will not be useful when we consider the maximum considered earthquake level. That is, it is almost a double the DBE, design-based earthquake. Okay, now we'll say one by one. The first one is seismic coefficient method. Here the seismic force is calculated based on the weight of the structure. F is the force, lateral force acting on the bridge. AH is the horizontal seismic coefficient, and the W is the total weight of the structure. Then this horizontal coefficient depends on many factors like zone factor, importance factor, response reduction factor, then SA by G. This is spectral acceleration coefficient. These values are all the data are given in the code book IS 1893. You can easily calculate what is the horizontal coefficient. Then if you substitute here, you will get what is the lateral force acting on the bridge or structure. Here in the case of seismic coefficient method, we consider only the fundamental mode. That is the first mode, first frequency or first time period is considered for the calculation of forces in the case of seismic coefficient method. Now we'll go to the second method, response spectrum method. Here we have the higher mode contribution also. So here we are considering higher modes also for the calculation of the lateral force acting on any structure. Here the bridges. Here again we have to know how many modes should be considered. The code specifies that at least 90% of the mass should be participated in this vibration. So how to know from the calculation we will come to know what is the mass participation for each mode. So we have to, for example, the first mode mass contribution is around 80%. Then second mode is 10%, and the third mode is again 10%. So here the first mode 80, then second mode 10. So we can have only the first two modes for the calculation of lateral force acting on the structure. Then we will calculate the responses for each mode. Then finally we will combine these responses to get the total response using the methods given in the code book, SRL's method and the CQC method. Next method is called the time history method. This is the nonlinear dynamic analysis. Here we are using the actual earthquake data for the analysis to get the response of any structure. Suppose the time history for a specific site is not available. For example, if you don't have the site specific, the time history for Chennai region, we have to select the time history, same the topography of different soil characteristics region. We have to collect at least three time histories that should be used in the analysis, and also there should be some specifications or characteristics for these time histories. The total duration of the time history shall be about 30 seconds, of which strong motion part shall not be less than 6 seconds. So we have to do selection of time history is also very critical here. So from the time history method, the responses also will be in terms of time history. For example, you look at the first one, it's the acceleration time history. Second one is the displacement time history. So here we have the peak. For the design, the maximum value or maximum response will be used. Then the next one is the pushover analysis. It's a static nonlinear analysis. From this analysis, we can find out what is the capacity of the structure or bridge, and whether it can sustain the demand from the particular earthquake. So here, this is very simple analysis when compared to the time history method. Therefore, the engineers, scientists are using majorly the pushover analysis. Okay, this method is suitable for design of special bridges and to determine the capacity of the existing structure for the purpose of retrofitting. These are the purposes of pushover analysis. If you want to evaluate large number of structures within a short period of time, the pushover analysis is very much suitable, and we can verify the design of new construction of bridges. Then the existing structures can be evaluated to identify the damage level. Then there are two key elements in the pushover analysis. One is demand, other one is capacity. First, let us see what is capacity. Capacity is the ability of the structure to resist the seismic demand. The demand is the representation of earthquake ground motion. So from this analysis, we can see whether the capacity meets demand or not. Okay, this is the typical capacity curve. It is drawn between base reaction versus displacement. This is the capacity curve. This is the typical demand curve. This is from the earthquake, particular earthquake ground motion, spectral acceleration and spectral displacement. Then to know whether the structure, structure's capacity meets demand or not, you have to combine these two curves. So here, this is the combination of the capacity curve and the demand curve. It is in the form of spectral acceleration and spectral displacement. If there is a performance point, that means there is an intersection between the capacity curve and the demand curve. Then we can say that the structure or bridge can sustain the particular Then from this base shear variation with lateral displacement curve, we can find out what is the damage level for different types of structures. This graph is drawn between base shear and lateral displacement at roof level, top level. Here in the pushover analysis, we assume that if the structure is pushed in one direction, then we are monitoring what is the force and the displacement. So here you look at this curve up to AB, it's a straight line. If the performance point lies between AB, then we can say that the structure is still in the elastic limit. There are no damages. Between B and IO, IO stands for immediate occupancy. After any earthquake event, there will be some damages in the non-structural elements. So there is no worry about the immediate occupancy. So here also we can say that the structure is same. Then between IO and LS, LS is nothing but a life safety. Between, suppose the performance point lies between these two, then we can say that some non-structural damages as well as small cracks in the structural elements. So here we can say that the structure or structural components start yielding. Here between LS and the CP, CP stands for collapse prevention. Here we have the damages in the structural components, but the complete collapse of the structure is prevented. Once it goes beyond CP, there's a huge amount of damages in the structure. Once it reaches C, that means that's a complete collapse of the structure. So here, once it reaches this stage, we can know that the structure cannot be used further, so it can be demolished. Okay, so this is the advantage of the pushover analysis. Now so far we have seen what are the different methods are used for the analysis. Now we'll see how we are going to implement this analysis in the real structure. For that, I have taken one typical bridge. We should know what are the components we are going to model for the analysis. Actually, we have a superstructure, it's a deck. Then substructure consists of piers and bearings, of course the foundation. Here you see the more number of columns. They are connected at the top using a beam. Okay, usually the bridge engineer used to say this as a column bend. Number of columns join at the top. Okay, so this portion is called column bend. Then here between the superstructure and the substructure there are bearings. Then here in the superstructure the girders or the deck is not of the entire length because they are individual components. They will be connected using the expansion joints. So in the analysis, the first step is to create the model of a bridge considering all these elements. Okay, now we'll see one by one. For the analysis of bridges, we have a different sophisticated softwares like SAP 2000, then CSI Bridge, Midas Civil, SATPro. Here I have taken the examples from SAP 2000 because I am comfortable with the SAP 2000. We can use, suppose you are not comfortable in creating the model in these softwares, you can create in the AutoCAD or other softwares, then you can import into the softwares, analysis softwares. Here the first step is to define the layout of the bridge. That is very important, whether it is a straight bridge or it's a curved bridge. The curve is along the vertical direction or horizontal direction. That can be decided first. Okay, here the straight, then how many number of spans also can be defined in the first step. This feature I have taken from SAP 2000. Depends on the requirement, you can choose the layout. Okay, next thing, we can choose the deck sections from the available data in the software. Here box girders, then T-beam, flat slab, precast, different types are there. You can choose according to your requirement, you can choose the deck sections. Once you, these are the standard sections. When you go into the software, you can change the or modify the dimension. So it is a user-friendly software. Then we have to get the model of the multi-column bend. This is nothing but the pier and the connected beam. Here the beam is modeled as a plane frame and the bent cap is modeled as a plane frame, and the columns or piers are modeled as beam column elements. Okay, here normally the bend will be in or can be considered as a rigid one. The columns or piers will be considered or modeled as a the plastic ductile member. Then at the base depends on the type of soil and foundation. We can have either fixed support or hinge support. Suppose you want to do the soil structure interaction, then we can have the springs at the base. So we have to feed the properties of the springs at the foundation level to have the reliable result. Then abutment. Abutment is the solid element at the ends of the bridge. They can be modeled as pin, roller, or fixed boundary cut. Suppose again, if you want to do the soil structure interaction, we can have the spring model. Then expansion joints. The expansion joints are modeled as gap elements. So here you look at this portion is the gap. So we can use the gap element here to connect these two. Then bearing, here we are seeing a linear spring element or link element. So initially you choose a linear spring element because we are going to do the non-linear analysis. We have to feed the non-linear properties of the elastomeric bearing. So now we have defined all the components and the model. Now we are going to combine the model components. Here we have three options. One is spine model using frame objects, then area object model and the solid object model. Here, for example, you consider this bridge. We'll see how this bridge is modeled using these three options. Okay, this is the area object model. Here you look at only the thin element. Here this is the solid object model. Then this is the spine model. So here most of the researchers have used this spine model because it is easy to create the model as well as for the analysis. So we can have area object model or solid. For the buildings, we used to have the solid object model. So here for understanding, I have taken two examples from the literature. One is from northern Greece. Okay, the span is around 638 meters. This is the original bridge. This is the software model of this bridge. 11 piers, then 2 abutments at the ends. It is curved in plan. Okay, they have used this spline model. Then they have done the nonlinear pushover analysis. I will show you what are the outputs from the pushover analysis. They have, this is the capacity curve along the longitudinal loading. Therefore, we can say that along the longitudinal direction, the structure is same, but along the transverse direction, the structure or structural components are yielded beyond its elastic limit. So we can see these are the hinge formation throughout the application of the load in the transverse direction. Now we'll see whether the structure is, the bridge is safe or not by combining the capacity curve and demand curve. So this is the combination. The dotted lines is the demand. Okay, the magnitude of the earthquake is 0.27 G. Now this is the capacity curve along the transverse direction. Now look at, there is a meeting point between the demand and capacity, so that we can say that the bridge is safe against this 0.27 G earthquake. But the performance point lies in between. You just recall how we have defined the damages between the life safety, maybe around life safety. So if there are any damages, minor damages in the structural components, that can be retrofitted. suppose you are going to construct a new structure with the same configuration, we can strengthen the weak sections in the design itself. So before construction itself, we can find out what are the different levels of damages due to a particular earthquake, so that we can minimize the losses after the earthquake event. So that's the advantage. This is one example. Another example I have taken from Chennai. This is around 129.7 meters span, total span. Here again, this researcher also has used the spline model, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 column bends, 2 abutments. This author has done both nonlinear time history analysis as well as the nonlinear pushover analysis. So this will be very useful. You can understand how to interpret the results from these two methods. So here, initially I want to show the mode shapes. Okay? The first mode shape, the mode shapes and the frequencies are obtained from natural or only with their mass and stiffness. There is no external load or additional load. So here you just look at, this is the first mode. This is along the transverse direction. Then the fundamental time period of this bridge is around 0.34, nearly 0.4. This is the first mode. Then second mode is along its longitudinal direction. Then third mode. Now you just look at, I am going to just go past these slides and you just check whether any changes in the mode shape along around the abutments. This is the first one, second one, third one. Here there are changes in the middle spans, the end span, there is no deflection. Then fourth, fifth one, sixth one, 7. Now you just look at, in the 8th mode, there is some disturbance in the abutment on both the sides, left side and right side. So here we can say that the higher modes also influence the response of this bridge. So for this bridge, particular bridge, the author has considered the first mode, second mode and the 8th mode. Again, here also the mass participation is little significant. Therefore, they have used first mode, second mode and 8th mode for the analysis. Even 9th mode also they have considered. Here also you see the deflection in the abutments. Then from the pushover analysis, we can find out the plastic hinge formation. This is the plastic hinge formation in the mode 1. Here now you look at B, the pink color. This is in the elastic stage. Then immediate occupancy, life safety, collapse prevention, collapse. Then finally after collapse, definitely there will be a total destruction of the structure, so don't worry about this. Here you see the pink color, here pink color, then blue color, then light blue color, and if you look at the middle bend, column bend, there are yellow color hinges. That means they are weak. So in the, before the construction, in the design level itself, you can strengthen this part. This is the advantage of a pushover analysis. This is for the mode 1. Then mode 2, this mode 2 is along the longitudinal direction. So along this longitudinal direction, the structure is safe because in plane flexural rigidity or flexural strength is very high when compared to the lateral direction. Therefore, here the hinges are in the elastic stage, not much damage. Then in the again in the 8th mode also, already I said higher mode influence is seen in this type of bridge. Therefore, in the middle bend, column bend, we have yellow color. So this portion should be, the column should be strengthened. Suppose if it is an existing building, so it can be retrofitted using different techniques. Then we can see whether the structure is safe against a particular earthquake or not. Here the Elsendro response spectrum is used for the analysis. Now you just look at in the mode 1, this is the capacity, the blue one is the capacity curve, and the green is the demand curve. Now here, are you able to see the meeting point of these two? This is the performance point. That means the particular bridge is able to sustain the given earthquake. Then we can read from the chart here, the spectral acceleration is 0.185 and the spectral displacement is 0.067, that is 67 mm. So these values will be used for the design. Then we will go to the second one. This is along the longitudinal direction. As already mentioned that it is very strong along the longitudinal direction. Therefore, you are seeing the linear one. And this is again the 8th mode. This is the capacity curve. This green one is the demand curve. Here also there is a meeting point. We can say the performance point SA is 0.115 G and SD is 63 mm. So from this capacity demand spectra, we can identify, or we will conclude that the structure is, or the bridge is sufficient enough to resist the earthquake load. Then they have used Elsendro time history for the nonlinear time history analysis. So this is the Elsendro earthquake time history available in the net. Anyone can download and use it for the analysis. Now from the time history analysis, they have found the displacement time history along the transverse direction. This is around, don't see whether it is plus or minus. You have to take the highest one, peak one. This is around 82 something. This is transverse direction. Then this is along the longitudinal direction. Along the longitudinal direction, the deflection is small when compared to the transverse direction. And we can get a base shear. All the responses, in the case of time history analysis, all the responses are in the form of time history. Again, you just look at it. This is along the transverse direction, 32 into 10 power 3 kilonewton. Similarly, along the longitudinal direction. Now I just come to the final one, conclusion. Again, I have come to the first slide. I think you remember what I explained in the first slide, whether the analysis is required or not. The main objective of the analysis to determine the response of the structure to excitations, that is analysis part, so that we can ensure the structure can sustain the excitation with an acceptable level of response. So with this, I complete my finish my presentation. Thank you. Thank you everyone for listening.
I request the participants if you have any questions, you can post it to the speaker by unmuting it. Let the question be one by one, right? Now the session is open for the question and answer sessions.
So before that, I want to say that my doctoral thesis was on seismic evaluation of RC frames. Actually, for getting the response by the pushover analysis, I have taken the control point on the top of the structure. But in the case of bridges, it is little critical. So many researchers and designers have taken the center of mass point, center of mass of the superstructure as a control point to record the or to monitor the response, either displacement or acceleration.
And there is a question from one of our own student.
Okay.
How do we know which deck section is needed for the design?
That again depends on the span. Depends on the demand from the client and based on the 1 minute, I will go back to the slide. Okay, I think this is the slide. So it depends on the span and the importance of the bridge. We can select the various deck sections.
Ma'am, is it there in the code book, ma'am? Like
No.
which deck to be used?
No. It is not given in the code book. This type of sections are available in almost all the analysis and design softwares.
So it falls on the client's decision to like we have to use the deck according to what the client asks, ma'am.
Some people, suppose I want to have a very aesthetic bridge, then I will not choose the ordinary T-beam. I will go with different shapes. That is one of the factors. But mainly based on the load coming on the bridge and the span.
Okay, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Actually, I wanted to show the entire modeling and analysis of any one of the bridge, but it will take more time. So we will have, if possible, we will have one workshop. There you can have a hands-on training on the modeling as well as the analysis of bridges.
That would be great, ma'am. If there are no questions, then I can conclude today's webinar session. Okay. I thank Dr. Helen Shanti ma'am for the webinar session on how to analyze the bridge. She had also elaborated the step-by-step procedures in a phase where we cannot even move our eyes from the slides for a second. I hope everyone felt the same way throughout the session. I thank her for the time, effort, and also for immediately accepting our request to be a part of this webinar series. Great appreciation goes to you, ma'am. Thank you once again. Thank you for all the participants for the patience listening. So we'll meet at the same time tomorrow. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, participants.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you all.